Hello, everyone. So we're back again on Unity. If you weren't sick about hearing about Unity yet, I'm really sorry. I've got more to go into with you. So the last time that we personally on this channel checked in with Unity was not long after they had ousted their CEO, John Riccitiello. Okay. The games industry as a whole had started a backlash against them for the Unity runtime fee thing, and they needed some kind of sacrificial lamb to, in their eyes, appease the monster they had just woken up. Naturally, companies do things like that quite a lot. They searched for the lowest person they could possibly get rid of, but unfortunately, the buck stopped relatively high up. Right? You know, they're like, okay, we'll get rid of this. We'll get rid of the EA loot box guy. So why are we going back to Unity now? Well, it's because Unity has announced a massive number of layoffs, or it is announcing layoffs, despite a significant growth in revenue. Now, I know there are people that are going to be saying, oh, okay, this is great. This is signs that, you know, people aren't going along with what Unity's saying anymore. And that's why they're doing this. But I just kind of want to drill into the numbers a little bit today. I feel that's going to be a valuable exercise. So, and let's look at these numbers, right? So, according to the sources available to gamesindustry.biz here, their current revenue is $544 million US. And I just want to highlight this part here, up 69% year on year. There are a lot of businesses that would kill for growth like that. That is an insane amount of growth. However, they're still operating a $125 million net loss. Now, with the various cost-cutting measures that they're doing, including, regrettably, all of these layoffs, they are halving that. So for the same period last year, they were operating at a $250 million loss. Now look at $125 million. Now, Unity themselves have announced that this is the result of a, quote, comprehensive assessment of its product portfolio, end quote, at the beginning of its fourth quarter. This is all outlined in the Q3 2023 report. And, you know, they kind of wrap all this up in all of this nice, squeaky clean business jargon. Oh, this assessment will likely lead us to decide to discontinue certain offerings, reduce our workforce, and reduce our office footprint, which is basically just saying, like, yeah, we got to save money, so we're just getting rid of stuff. That's what they're saying. A lot of this came from Unity's CFO, Luis Visoso, probably mispronouncing that, and the interim CEO, who we have covered as well, CEO James Whithurst, has referred to this as a rip off the Band-Aid reset. I'm not convinced about that for reasons I'm going to go into. But yeah, we'll just go a little bit more through this article. This is interesting, this part. Okay, so we're looking at Create Solutions revenue, and that's the division in charge of Unity's engine. Core subscriptions are up 19% during Q3, but revenue was flat year on year. So they have more people subscribing, but less money. Now, if you remember back to when I was talking about this before, I was saying that they kind of needed the opposite to happen, right? They needed to either maintain or maybe even lose some subscribers, but increase the amount of revenue from those subscriptions that they gained, which is one of the reasons why they were doing the runtime fee to begin with. So they cite three sectors that negatively impacted growth. Sorry, Unity Game Services, hyphenated as UGS, China, and Professional Services. UGS had a record third quarter last year for new game launches. China revenue declined from continued government restrictions on gaming, and we continue to reduce our reliance on professional services. So, quote, we continue to believe that we are gaining share in a relatively flat market, the company said. We experienced some revenue softness at the end of the quarter and in October from the runtime fee introduction, which is now mostly behind us. The letter to shareholders... Wait, now they hit Whitehurst? They said it was Whithurst earlier. Whatever. Said Unity was doing too much and aimed to emerge, quote, as a leaner, more agile and faster growing company for the next quarter. He added, quote, going forward, we plan to increase our focus on our core, the Unity editor and runtime and monetization solutions as we continue to see significant opportunities for growth in these businesses, including AI. Let's unpack this a bit, shall we? The thing to know about Unity is it's wildly unprofitable. It's wildly unprofitable, right? So, we're going to go back up here, right? Let's look at these. Let's not forget these numbers. $250 million net loss that they've now halved. And the thing is Unity were doing what a lot of tech companies do, right? Which is you go in and you have a certain amount of seed money as part of a war chest, right? And you use this to artificially grow a user base, right? You keep throwing money at the problem and you don't worry too much about long-term business viability. For the first however many years, you can afford to burn money with reckless abandon. And that's what Unity have been doing. But typically the idea is that over time, you slowly reduce your reliance on eating into this big wad of cash that you brought with you, and you slowly and organically build profitability. Unity don't seem to have done that. They were very clearly interested in trying to beat Unreal. I believe the figure I saw was that at one point Unity was employing about 7,700 people. Unity hired about 7,700 people, which, if memory serves, was about twice the number of people working at Epic on Unreal. It's very clear that they wanted to, by business standards, pretty much overnight build a market dominance in the game engine sphere. And then the plan was to pull this runtime shit on everyone. And while that is making money, it's not making them the kind of money they're expecting. If you look at the actual figures behind Unity, very little of Unity's actual income comes from the engine itself, right? And we saw that, we have more people subscribing to the engine, but they're not actually earning any more money. Instead, where Unity's profitability comes in is from its advertising. It's from its additional services that it offers to developers. These subscription services that they have. That's where the money comes in. And that really explains why you then had John Riccitiello saying, oh, developers that don't push monetization in their games are fucking idiots. Because at the end of the day, what he's doing, he's looking at the balance sheet. He's saying, well, yeah, we got a whole bunch of guys using our engine, but they're not making themselves any money, or more importantly, making us any money by doing so, right? They're using a very low cost version of it. They're not paying for the extra bells and whistles, which is where our company's profitability comes from, and what have you. And the other thing that, again, I've not really had a chance to verify this, but I think based on John Riccitiello's previous tenures as CEO, he was very acquisition minded. And I think we got the impression that this happened again at Unity. Notice as well, they were saying there's going to be a big focus, especially now that John's gone, that they're going to be a leaner company. So I think one of the reasons why they're still posting so much of a net loss is, rather than building this colossal user base, which they did, and then focused on, okay, great, well, we've got people in through the door, now let's focus on becoming viable. John just went for that whole late stage capitalism thing of going, well, what if line went up even more, and maintained that rate of burning through their money by just growing exponentially bigger and faster than they could possibly expect to. And I'm sure that what happens was him and other people in the company could point at these balance sheets and say, look, when we introduce this new runtime fee, when we keep getting this money coming in from places like China, we can afford it, right? We're still going to make money. And then obviously a couple of things just did not go to plan, right? Unity aren't the only people being hit by the gaming restrictions in China at the moment. Unity have been hit by the runtime fee thing. As we can see, they're making more money. They've never had more income than they do right now, but they're still posting a loss. And because this magical money faucet that they were expecting to have isn't posting out quite as much money as they were expecting, what we've seen here is a knee-jerk reaction, right? We got to cut losses right now, fire a bunch of people, cut off the fat, cut off our less profitable assets, less immediately profitable. It's hard not to see this as a panic response. Things like this aren't that unusual in the tech sphere, unfortunately. My hope is that maybe they'll, I don't know, my hope is they'll crash and burn. It's, take this from me, they've not given up on the runtime service fee thing, okay? Because we can see the numbers here in front of us. They're going to keep pushing it as hard and as far as they can, because at the risk of sounding dramatic, in the long term, it's the only way their company survives. They are not making money, they are not profitable, and they need to fix that. Despite posting an almost 70% year-on-year revenue increase, they are still not profitable, which is insane. Is utterly insane. And this should show you just how insane and just how artificial Unity's rate of growth was, right? If they weren't coming into the industry with this massive amount of seed capital, with all of these investments, and literally just buying their way into the industry landscape, I mean, I guess it would still be Unreal on top of everything at the moment, or whatever people are using to develop mobile games. Yeah, no, this is crazy. My expectation, especially as they are still under an interim CEO at the moment, is that Unity will go dark for a little bit. We're not going to hear too much out of them after these layoffs are announced. Probably not until the Q4 report. My thoughts are with the people who lost their jobs. As I say in many of these videos, the games industry as a whole just seems to really be addicted to firing people at the moment, which is incredibly regrettable. And I hope that the people who lost their employment are able to get back onto their feet sooner rather than later. But yeah, that's just my take on things. This isn't so much a win of the gamers versus the company. It's not, oh, well, the gamers stopped, the game developers even stopped renewing their Unity subscriptions. Now the company's up in the flames. The company was already in flames. Right. The only difference is that they were the ones that started the fire, and yet they were using it to keep warm. And now that's catching up with them. Anyway, I'll see you on the next one. Stay safe. And yeah, thank you very much for stopping by. If you want to help me out, please engage with things that the algorithm enjoys. Leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe. Check out my Twitch channel. That's where the majority of my time and energy and focus are going into at the moment. But yeah, thank you very much. I will see you on the next one. So what do we do if we don't hit quota?
As you have not met the profit quota, your performance has been deemed below standard. Welcome to our disciplinary process.